For as long as I can remember, Call of Duty has always been at the top of first-person shooter games. While dominating the gaming sphere, over the years Call of Duty has released many different comic book series that I don't hear many people talking about. So here is the full history of why Activision brought the franchise to the comic world and issue-by-issue analysis of each book. There are a few other comics out there, but these are just the major series that have been released. When Modern Warfare 2 came out in November 2009, it introduced players to the iconic character of Simon Ghost Riley, but little was known about his past or who he was before putting on his ghost mask. In response, Wildstorm, an imprint of DC Comics, released a 6-issue miniseries from November 2009 through early 2010. Written by David Lapham with art by Kevin West and covers by Federico D'Aleuccio. Their mission was to dive into Ghost's origins, traumas, and transformation from a British soldier to the legendary operative we know and love. Issue 1, Dead for a Day, begins with a chilling atmosphere as Ghost, known at the time only as Sergeant Riley, is dropped into Mexico on a covert SAS operation. The opening sequence is crisp and commanding. Riley infiltrates a drug cartel stronghold while the art renders every moment perfectly. But the operation spirals out of control when a traitorous informant betrays the SAS team, leading to an ambush that ends with Riley captured. From the beginning, the comic paints a portrait of a soldier whose grit is about to be tested beyond the battlefield. In issue 2, Dead Life, the story delves deeper into the guy behind the mask. Through flashbacks, readers witness a young Simon Riley growing up in Manchester under a violent father, battered both physically and emotionally. This context provides grim motivation for his later choices. Meanwhile, the present-day narrative shows him tortured in a cartel compound in Mexico, where he endures unrelenting physical and psychological torment. Broken and bloodied, he resists the pain, and this is essentially us seeing the creation of the Ghost persona unfold. By the time issue 3, Dead Will Follow opens, Riley's suffering has driven him to snap, but he is still behind bars in prison. He's threatened and forced to work for the cartel, leading dangerous missions against his will. What catches the eye here is the moment Riley begins shedding his past identity. He forces himself to execute a hostage to protect an innocent one, signaling his first steps into moral grayness and emotional disassociation. In issue 4, Dead Won't Leave, Riley finally breaks free. He escapes his captors and methodically hunts down the informant who orchestrated the betrayal of him and his fellow soldiers. The issue uses shadow and silhouette to great effect, with Riley's skull mask motif starting to emerge visually, signaling the start of the Ghost identity. At this point, it's clear that his transformation to Ghost is more psychological than it is physical. By issue 5, Dead Won't Rise, Riley has, for lack of a better explanation, fully embraced the Ghost. He tracks cartel leaders across desert landscapes, executing operative after operative with cold efficiency. What begins to surface is his internal struggle. Justifying each kill becomes necessary in his mind, as well as the fight to retain humanity while hunting these monsters. Finally, issue 6, Dead and Gone, wraps Riley's arc brutally. He executes the cartel's kingpins, dismantles their network, but pays a terrible personal cost. In a flash forward, Ghost is shown boarding a mission as a part of Task Force 141, fully established as the icon fans would come to know in Modern Warfare 2. This origin saga marries tragedy, violence, and redemption, delivering a haunting portrait of a man reborn. Behind the scenes, Modern Warfare 2 Ghost was assembled to satisfy fan curiosity. Ghost was a mysterious figure in the game, a cult hero whose backstory barely scratched its surface. By hiring Lapham, known for his grim and emotional narratives, and using art that didn't shy away from brutality, Wildstorm gave fans a reason to care. They believed players would remember the character not only for his missions or awesome-looking mask, but for the guy behind it. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 got its own 6-issue comic run, published by Dark Horse in 2015, written by Larry Hama, the legendary G.I. Joe writer, with art by Mark Lamming. This series was meant to act as a prequel to the main Black Ops 3 campaign, filling in the gaps of the world's descent into chaos and tech-fueled warfare. The comic focuses on a Black Ops team made up of 4 specialists: Jacob Hendricks, John Taylor, Khalil, and Sarah Hall, all of whom are working deep undercover to root out a rogue faction of cybernetically enhanced warlords. Right from issue 1, the Black Ops style of tone is set being brutal and morally gray. This isn't about good versus evil, but it's about what happens when soldiers are turned into weapons. The world of Black Ops 3 is a terrifying look at future warfare, where cybernetics, drones, and neural interfaces have made soldiers both unstoppable and unstable. The series explores the mental toll of the direct neural interface, DNI, which plays a major role in the game. These soldiers are constantly connected, seeing through drones, hacking enemy systems, and receiving live feeds from their commanders. But the comics show how that kind of technology also chips away at your autonomy. One of the most compelling through lines is the team dynamic. This isn't a ragtag group of misfits, but a hyper-efficient unit with serious moral fractures. Hall begins to question their orders, Khalil becomes increasingly disgusted with the endless kill or be killed missions, and Taylor starts to show the very early signs of the psychological unraveling that we see fully in the campaign. Visually, Mark Laming's artwork does a great job capturing the gritty, high-tech world of Black Ops 3. Cityscapes are filled with digital pollution and drone clutter. The action sequences are chaotic and brutal, just like in the game. And there's an impressive level of detail, especially in how D&I feeds are represented, which helps sell the idea that these operatives are more machine than man. Across the 6 issues, the comic builds toward a crucial turning point, the moment where this Black Ops team realizes they've been pawns in a larger global game, caught between military contractors, rogue AI, and political cover-ups. The final issue hints at a wider conspiracy that mirrors the instability we see in the main Black Ops 3 story, connecting the prequel comic to the events of the game without retreading the same plot points. Unfortunately, there isn't much out there on these comics, so that's why this is more of a full overview rather than an issue-by-issue breakdown, though this 6-issue comic series gives a glimpse into the world we see in Black Ops 3. Now I'm going to hand it off to a comic book TikTok creator, Comic Nuts, to go over the Call of Duty Zombies Volume 1 series.
Call of Duty Zombies Volume 1. Fast forward to October 2016, and the Call of Duty franchise was riding high on the zombie wave generated by Black Ops 3. The Aether storyline, a dense mythology revolving around timelines, artifacts, and obviously zombies, had an extremely devoted fanbase. To keep the fanbase engaged with more lore than Easter eggs, Activision collaborated with Dark Horse Comics to release Call of Duty Zombies Volume 1, running for 6 issues from October 2016 to August 2017. This series, written by Justin Jordan alongside Treyarch's Jason Blundell and Craig Houston, with art by Jonathan Wayshak and covers by Simon Bisley. The series looked to expand on the narrative aftermath of the Transit crew introduced in the game. Issue 1 kicks off with Primus Richtofen narrating the fractured state of reality. The 4 survivors are fighting to stay alive against the zombies in the post-moon Easter egg world. After narrowly surviving separate encounters, the crew reunites only to be targeted by a strange Nazi zombie that appears more intelligent than the rest. When Stillinger, haunted by Richtofen's voice, which only he can hear, begs the group to trust him, and then a portal opens, just in time to help them escape. Issue number 2 drops them into a research facility once operated by Russman's old employer, Broken Arrow. As zombies pour in through the portal behind them, the crew searches for answers and stumbles upon twisted experiments, mutated animal test subjects known as bios, created with Element 115 stolen from Division 9. Memories rush back to Russman, and he begins to unravel under the weight of his past. The bios and zombies eventually clash, giving the crew just enough time to locate the 115 shard believed to power the entire facility. In issue number 3, the group flees once again through a portal, landing in another high-tech research base. They're met by an AI and its lethal security systems. Marlton goes full engineer mode while the others are nearly crushed by laser barriers and hunted by cyber-enhanced zombies. Eventually, the team activates a blood-based security system using the 115 shard, triggering a surreal flash that transports them into what looks like a restored world, a lush forest under moonlight. Misty wonders if they've finally fixed something, or just made it worse. Issue number 4 confirms the latter. As the group prepares for another zombie ambush, Richtofen reveals to Stillinger that this world is a tangent timeline doomed to collapse. The crew's very presence is accelerating its decay. Tensions spike when Stillinger tries to explain this and is met with disbelief. As paranoia boils over into a gun standoff, zombies breach the facility again. Stillinger follows Richtofen's call and finds the Chronorium, a powerful artifact, but unleashes cybernetic zombies in the process. Issues 5 and 6 serve as the chaotic conclusion, separated and disoriented. The crew must come to terms with their trust issues and dependence on one another. Misty and Marlton push to keep the group united, even as it becomes increasingly unclear who or what is guiding them. They've followed the voice in Stillinger's head across dimensions, through labs, and into hell itself. But with the world falling apart around them, they aren't sure if they can trust the voice in Stillinger's head. Behind the scenes, this series was born from collaboration. Treyarch's writers wanted more space to explore lore without interrupting gameplay or pacing. Digital previews at conventions and quarterly print releases were timed to sustain fan interest between game drops. Artistic choices emphasized horror aesthetics, grit, darkness, and shocks. For fans, it was a real addition to the canon, and for any casual readers, it was a zombie survival horror with emotional hooks. Shout out Matt for letting me do this.
Now I'll hand it over to Spencer, another comic book TikTok creator, to go over Call of Duty Zombies Volume 2.
What's up, guys? My name is Spencer, or the Stoke Nerd, and I'm going to be talking about the Black Ops 4 section of the Call of Duty comics, aka the Chaos storyline. With Black Ops 4 approaching release in the fall of 2018, Treyarch introduced a new Zombies arc branded Chaos, new characters and unique maps across time. To accompany it, Dark Horse released a 4-issue miniseries under the same name as 2016's Volume 1, beginning on September 5th, 2018, just ahead of the game's release. The writing remained in the hands of Treyarch. More specifically, these issues were written by Jason Blundell and Craig Houston, while the art team changed to a fresh new face. Andres Ponce and Maru Vargas drew the interiors, and EM Gist did the covers. Issue 1 of Volume 2 introduces us to a new cast of characters, Scarlet, Bruno, Diego, and Stanton. Each brings a distinct motive, with Scarlet seeking her father, and Bruno wrestling with guilt. The ensemble uncovers an old mansion site supposedly linked to a cult called the Order of the Keepers, foreshadowing the global outbreak. Similar to Zombies Volume 1, this issue shows us that it will focus on characters and how they interact with each other, rather than just killing zombies. In Issue 2, the team infiltrates a remote stronghold, hoping to uncover an artifact tied to Scarlet's father. The story adds depth by revealing that the Order has used zombies as biological weapons for centuries. Issue 3 focuses more on the group's dynamic. Not only does everyone fight zombies, but also their own thoughts of the other group members. The thoughts our characters have are spurred by a betrayal within the group. One key thing from the issue is that Bruno questions Scarlet's obsession with finding her father. This issue really focuses on the dynamic of the group as mentioned earlier, with not much zombie action. Issue 4 brings a bloody climax. The artifact's power manifests, opening another portal and amplifying the zombies' behavior. The team must act fast to prevent the outbreak from spreading around the world. The issue ends on an ominous cliffhanger as the crew hears distant engines and overseas broadcasts. Then it cuts to black. Volume 2 sets the table for the upcoming Black Ops 4 Zombies experience, leading us right up to the first map, Voyage of Despair. This comic sets up our characters before we see them in the game. It's a fun setup for the Zombies story for the diehard fans, but there isn't much here for non-Call of Duty Zombies fans. But nonetheless, this was a successful run of issues to drum up the hype for the Black Ops 4 Chaos storyline.
When the multiplayer-focused Black Ops 4 hit store shelves in October 2018, Activision wanted each specialist's voice heard, even before those characters were seen in multiplayer matches. The solution to this, other than their small cutscenes and story bits in the Specialist HQ, was a 10-issue digital-first comic series named Black Ops 4 Specialists. These were released weekly beginning September 26, 2018. These would be available for free on Activision's website and all digital platforms, and later they were compiled into a hardcover in August 2019. The series featured 10 standout writers, some of those being Greg Rucka, Chris Robertson, Jeremy Barlow, K.A. McDonald, and along with that there were corresponding artists, each spotlighting one of the specialists from the game. I'm not going to go super in-depth into all of these, since we learn the same information in the Specialist HQ if you've played that, and I can't have this video be forever because of the Black Ops 4 Specialists. Issue 1 focuses on Ruin, an American demolitions expert whose body is as scarred as his memories. The issue retraces a failed mission during which he lost teammates and nearly himself. In Issue 2, we focus on Prophet, as it chronicles his early days as a data specialist in Chicago who witnessed systematic corruption. As he hijacks his first military drone, Prophet begins to blur the line between vigilante and Black Ops asset. Issue 3's hero is Crash, the combat medic who saved countless lives. We follow his time in a field hospital during a jungle insurgency, and we see how he saves soldiers and civilians. Issue 4, Torque's story, takes readers to his days as a British soldier deployed to East Africa, where he learned that tactical brilliance isn't enough when squads fracture over conflicting orders. Issue 5 spotlights Firebreak, a pyrotechnic soldier whose obsession with fire stems from a childhood arson tragedy. In Issue 6, Nomad's path from lone wolf survivalist to team asset is traced through flashbacks to his family living off the grid in Mexico. Issue 7 profiles Recon, a stoic Japanese ground self-defense force operative on a silent vow of restraint. Through tightly confined force, we learn how personal dishonor became his driving force. Issue 8 presents Seraph, an Israeli assassin drafted into top-secret ops after military trauma left her resentful of both politics and terror. In issue 9, Ajax's story is about a South African soldier with a shield and a violent past from civil conflicts, and running through uncanny alignment with global mercenaries. Issue 10 follows Battery and closes the arc by focusing on a demolitions expert whose explosive background is wrapped in grief over her destroyed home and family. This comic series wraps up all 10 specialists full circle and makes them feel more human, which probably should have been done through a single-player campaign, but I digress. These were released weekly to build hype and depth before Black Ops 4's launch, but the series did more than advertise the game. It made each specialist feel more like a character with a story, rather than some random person to buy skins for. The hardcover collection in August 2019 cemented that what we see in the books are canon, if anyone even cares. In November 2021, Team Sledgehammer Games prepared to launch Call of Duty Vanguard, an attempt to return to gritty storytelling during World War II. Activision and Sledgehammer commissioned a 6-issue digital comic series written by Sam Maggs with art by Piotr Kowalski, which I definitely didn't say right, and colors by Brad Simpson. The first issue arrived online on November 3rd, 2021, while a printed physical edition for number 1 debuted at New York Comic Con 2021. I'm also not going to go through each issue of this, because I don't really think Vanguard has a fan base out there at all, but I still want to cover the main idea of the beginning and end of the comic run. This comic series begins in North Africa, where Captain Carver Butcher is tasked with forging a new allied squad from different experienced soldiers. The first issue plunges us into Butcher's decision to come forward and lead, showing us his uncertainty, his early losses, and a sense of compassion that sets him apart from other commanders. Issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 pretty much show him building the Vanguard team, and issue 6 erupts as the newly formed squad executes its first strategic operation. The comic culminates with battlefield explosions that blend seamlessly into the opening moments of the game itself. This shows us that this is a prequel directly before the game's story, and if you read these before playing, it would most likely make your story experience just a little better. Across all of these series, Activision and its collaborators strategically transform their gaming IP into a transmedia franchise, among many other collaborations into Funko Pop figures, building sets, and so on. The goal through all of these very different stories was consistent: reveal what lies behind less story-driven moments and characters who could use more light on them. First, these comics provide character depth that is often sacrificed in fast-paced gameplay. Players don't need to spend hours listening to Ghost opening up about his mother or Ruin reflecting on lost comrades during a match. But comics allow this to happen. They enable reflection, memory, emotional conflict, and all of which is very hard to convey while going down 30 times in zombies or going 0-19 in a TDM game. The timing of all of these comics also play a very key role. All of these were released ahead of a game's launch and build anticipation, not just advertising the game, but delivering world-building miniseries that engage fans weeks before titles go live. The digital-first and free distribution further amplify the reach, while hardcover collections provide a backlog for collectors. These comics fill lore gaps and build canon. The Zombies arcs answer any questions about a new crew, while Vanguard prepares you before playing the campaign. Each comic ensures that the narrative across media remain connected. Fast forward to today, and most of these comics are now considered highly collectible, with some issues of the Zombies Volume 1 run selling for anywhere from $100 to $300 plus. It all depends on the condition, print number, variant covers, things like that. And one question I had was, why are they worth so much money? And I think I got it down to 3 big factors. First off, these comics weren't printed in massive numbers. This wasn't like Batman or Spider-Man, but they were short comic runs from Dark Horse tied to a bonus mode in Call of Duty, or were backstories for things you didn't need to enjoy the games. Most people didn't even know the comics existed unless you were deep into the COD community. That means physical copies, especially first prints, and even more so the variant covers, are incredibly scarce now. Unlike video games that get digital re-releases or remasters, a print run is final. Once it's gone, it's gone. Secondly, nostalgia plays a big factor. The older Call of Duty games are very nostalgic to players, and for many, things like the Transit Crew were interesting characters, and they wanted to see more about them. Seeing these characters again in a medium that expands their story beyond the maps hits a nostalgic nerve for longtime fans. Owning these comics isn't just about reading them, but I'm sure it feels like owning a piece of COD Zombies history. Same goes for Ghost. He was an interesting character that fans are eager to learn more about. And third, the comics are canon. These issues aren't just side content, but they directly expand on the games. This is very important for Zombies fans, since these comics dive into things that really only die-hard fans care about. Broken Arrow, Element 115, the Chronorium, tangent timelines, and even how Richtofen manipulates events from behind the scenes. For hardcore fans who treat the zombie storyline like its own MCU, these comics are essential lore, meaning demand for them isn't just coming from collectors, but from dedicated story enthusiasts. Add to those reasons the rise of video game memorabilia as a legitimate collector's market, especially for franchises with massive fandoms like Call of Duty, and you've pretty much got the perfect storm. If you're lucky enough to own a full set of any of these runs in great condition, especially with those stunning variant covers, you're sitting on what is essentially the holy grail of COD collectibles. So yeah, these aren't just comics, but they're rare, nostalgic, lore-packed artifacts from beloved Call of Duty stories. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and please check out Comic Nuts and Spencer. They are some of my favorite TikTok comic creators, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with them on this video. You can find their links in the description below, and have a great day, and I hope to see you in another video. Peace.